From urban land grabs to rural dispossession, the struggle for land is one of the most powerful and often invincible forces shaping inequality across Africa. Land represents more than physical territory. It embodies identity, heritage, and is vital to socio-economic life. Now, it underpins agriculture, settlement, and spirituality. Yet, land ownership remains a deeply complex and contested issue rooted in colonial history and intertwined with political and economic inequality. Nowhere is this more apparent than in Nigeria, where historical policies, current legal system, and systemic disparities continue to influence the controls of land, and consequently, who has access to opportunity and economic justice. Welcome to Just Africa, where we ask the vital question: who really owns land in Nigeria? And how does that affect the economic justice in the country? I am Olumide Sokoya, and I also have my co-anchor, Oyinpreye Krumale.
Hello.
Happy New Week.
Happy New Week to you, Olumide.
How was your weekend?
Very great. Good morning, Lagos. Good morning, Nigerians. Yes, talking about land. When we talk about land administration in Nigeria, it has its roots from two entities. And one of it is from the customary law, and the other part of it, came from the colonial masters.
Yes.
And that, changed it and made it from the Native Land Ordinance Act from 1916, during those before independence, and moving forward, it now translated or transformed in 1978, 1976, thereabout, to the Land Use Act,
yes,
which actually, gave some form of authority to the governments, to the state governors in Nigeria, to be able to exercise some form of regulatory authority and supervision and power over lands in their domain. So, and it's not the same in Africa. When we go to Kenya, it's almost replicated itself. But the Mau Mau rebellion in Kenya actually led to a alien displacement in Kenya, so that lands were now transferred from the colonial lords to the locals. Apartheid in South Africa itself also, had its own way of, settling issues when it comes to land, taking land from foreigners, from the whites, and, transferring them to blacks. And I could remember vividly one of the senators or one of the lawmakers, functionaries in South Africa that was really talking about, when he was campaigning for election, that if he wins, he's going to take, all the mines and all the lands that are possessed by foreigners and transfer them back to locals, to indigenes, to South Africans. So in Namibia, they have their own story, and I believe as the show goes on, we'll be able to look at this part of the story. But that of Nigeria is very, very significant and very, very important.
One thing, just like you rightly mentioned, the pre-colonial era, I've often heard that Nigeria belonged to a certain people, Royal Nigeria. So when I did a little digging, it wasn't as if they owned Nigeria. What happened was the British government gave them rights to just acquire certain parts of Nigeria. That's the Royal Niger Company. It was founded by George Goldie, I think around 1886. And I think around late 1900, the British revoked that. And, it was now divided to the northern. We had the Northern Protectorate and the Southern Protectorate. Now, in the Northern Protectorate, it was freehold ownership, whereby families, clans, communities were given not necessarily ownership, but they were just allocated lands. Whereas in the South, we had both statutory and freehold.
Yes.
Yeah, customary and all that. But the Land Use Act revoked all that, and now we have just all rights are vested in each state governor right now, and they give you this particular. You don't actually own it.
The land that you bought,
yes,
you don't actually own it.
It's not
so
full.
There's a specific period of time that you're expected to own the land.
To own, I think about 99 years. I stand to be corrected about that. But looking at during the pre-colonial and now, do you think What difference do you think we were better off then when land? And I heard that time that you just pick a stone. If land not to be allocated, you pick a stone and you throw it, and as far as the stone drops, that is your land.
And well, those were not even native or crude ways. If we look at it from the customary perspective, they will be going back to the old days where our fathers and great-grandfathers, within their own locality and as the culture of that tribe dictates how they took possession of those lands, and how within the community, even their kings and the rulers among them, how they give lands to the people in society, as long as you are a native of those places. And they buy, because sometimes their great-grandfathers, had acquired those lands through some of the means of which history cannot really explain. That you grow up knowing that, oh, my father owned large hectares of land, and most of them predominantly were farming. So in that specific case, they started giving out to their children. When their children get married and the family starts expanding, they start allocating lands to families. And that's how most people we have now, were able to acquire those land. But as it is now, real estate has, sucked into the whole system, and people can sell lands that they freely, were given to or inherited.
All right, so our guest is on standby. Today we will dive into land ownership and, of course, economic disparities. And we'll have our guest is on standby. He is a realtor and, of course, the CEO of Best Royalty Homes Limited. This is Engineer Prosper Nwizu. I hope I got that name correct.
Yes, you did. Good morning, gentlemen.
All right, so let's start off. Can you hear me? Can you please?
I can hear you. Good morning.
Thank you. Great. Thank you very much for joining us. All right, so let's start with some context here. Now, many people might not realize that land issues in Nigeria and, of course, across much of Africa didn't just start today. Can you walk us through how the colonial history shaped the modern land ownership? Use Act.
Okay.
Yes.
So land per se, coming from the government policy, is literally not owned by individual per se. It's mainly by the government. These lands are actually given out. We have, just like the guest speaker, the other speaker was mentioning, you have this land apportioned to families, and it's usually given for 99 years. At the end of the day, you all know that these lands, at the end of the day, when you get them, you have to carry out some other forms of renewal of land certificates or certification, as the going says. In Lagos, citing Lagos as an example, we understand that Lagos real estate has become one of the most lucrative aspects of Nigeria, where you have lots of economical growth. And at this point, it's also being one of the focal areas where lots of people now are now buying into, in terms of going into real estate banking and the likes of it. In general, real estate has been in existence since the creation of the world. It's a particular thing that will definitely stay even until the end of the world. It's something that cannot be taken out. It's a localized business in itself, because the law that governs a certain region is not the same law that governs another region. There are ways at which some laws definitely affect a particular region when it comes to acquisition of real estate. So that's it's all for now. Thank you very much.
Okay, so let me take you back to a preamble I mentioned during the beginning of the program about these lands some of them are objects of inheritance from generations back to families. Let's assume you, the land, your father was a ruler or a chief in your village, and he has land, hectares of land. He gave to you, he gave to your brothers. These are right, you are rightful owners of the land. But as the Land Use Act that has given the government the entity who holds the land in trust of the people, doesn't that give some form of authority to the government to, if they want to, or if they see reason to, by way of law, take it away from the rightful owners of this land? Or probably, do we have instances where this case, where government is holding land in trustee of the people, has been challenged in court?
Okay, thank you very much. Once again, I need to reiterate that lands in Nigeria have their own origin, right? We have, let's even cite Lagos, for example. I want to delve into the situation that had to do with um, the Morocco evictees. I don't know if you're aware about the Morocco evictees. Um, that particular land have their original owners. The government stepped into it and also had to evacuate people out of that place. And they had to now send them to another land because they had a use for it, right? But the situation here is this: if it is not done, if it's not done legally, then it is seen as a breach of trust because these lands were originally owned by people. As you rightfully mentioned, government came in and also had to put up a form of trust in it so that it could be a form of regulation when it comes to land. Because we all understand that not until not until when people started seeing the relevance of land when it comes to the farming and other mineral resources that was now found under the earth. A lot of people didn't regard land as such a big deal. And as such, the government, citing using that same Morocco as an example, when they saw the need for exploring that particular access, they had to forcefully get people out of there. The actual, um, what do you call them, the locals there, they actually had to evict them there, promising that they are going to give them somewhere else, which they did. Credit to the government. But when they took them to the other location, what happened was that they didn't fulfill their promise as they said. Now we are not even hearing another rumor that they still want to take them out. It's not even a rumor. So we have already had situations where houses have been illegally demolished, even without the government authority. I think I would probably like to reserve this for as we proceed with this discussion. But for now, what we're actually trying to establish here is the fact that there is a legal way of getting land, and there is also a legal way of getting people out of the land by the government. If this land acquisition or land displacement does not take place legally, it is seen as a breach from the context of the government. Hence, the people have their sole right to file petitions against the government if they sense that they are not lawfully evicted with the due process. I don't know if I got that your question right.
Okay, it's fine. Go on.
All right. I'd like us to now focus on the Land Use Act of the 1978, or the current one rather. Now, on paper, it was supposed to democratize access to land, but decades after, critics say it's part of a problem. But in practice, it's created a highly centralized system where political elites could allocate land, often with Little transparency. This has allowed for corruption, elite land grabs, and of course the displacement of ordinary people. Can you tell us what went wrong and how can this anomaly can be correct? How can it be corrected?
I didn't get that. Can you come again?
All right, now, critics are saying the Land Use Act is just there for the political elite to acquire land with little or no transparency, and this has allowed for corruption. This anomaly, how can it be corrected?
Okay. So for me, basically, this is not supposed to be a rocket science situation. This is something that is very clear to even down to the common man. We have early settlers of land. We know there are histories that back up a certain terrain, and that history of a particular terrain gives right to lawful owners of certain lands. Now, the government comes in partnership with such owners to ensure that lands are being um, either sold out for either um, economical value or sold out to other sets of individuals. Now, land grabbers, how do they come in this? How do they come in this scenario? The thing is this, because most times the people themselves are not well educated on this situation that has to do with acquiring land, and most of these people fall victims. Now, that is where you now need a professional real estate um, agent or realtor, as the case may be, to guide you, accompanied with lawyers who are also familiar with real estate laws, so that you don't fall victim in a situation like this. I have seen various instances where a lot of people, even down with legitimate documents, still fall victim. Now they can give more than one person a certain land, unknowing to them that the so-called what do you call them, either chief of that certain particular area has a connection with either one of the government officials, who at the end of the day they just swindle a lot of people because they don't have any other backing to help them reclaim their land. So the only option that they have is either they try to go to the court to get justice, and which in most cases it's the chances of you getting justice in such situations are slim, or they actually try to give you somewhere else that is not even close to where you desire. So at this moment, we need to have credible, registered, well trained, and seasoned real estate agents, as well as lawyers who can help to curb this menace, because it is seriously becoming a widespread of what do you call this set of people, um, fraud. It's actually fraud. And we thank God for some other social media influencers who have taken up the initiative to bring awareness. The only way we can solve this is to bring awareness and put light to where darkness has already shadowed already. So this this particular topic is very, very critical and is essential, because a lot of people, a lot of some set of tribes have also been uh, found themselves in a situation like this, and they feel like they have been attacked. Sometimes they usually say there is always an atom of truth in rumors. And if you want me to be honest with you, these things are actually true. They are there. But until we come and we put serious light onto this, it will still continue. Lagos, coming as using Lagos, citing Lagos as an example, we have seen a lot of cases. Take for instance, we know that there are some instances where some persons, they know that this land they are coming to get has some certain set of issues, but they feel they can always use their money to buy their way out. But it's not supposed to be so. There are areas that have been marked already that, okay, here is going to be used for a certain purpose. But because some people have their own personal interest, they influence it. I want to even use they have some estates here in Lagos using on the island here. I don't want to mention some names. We know that this area, it's a it's meant to be for a canal. Yet you go there, putting yourself, even the government officials, they know, and they will still go and accredit such a project, and they will now build there, sell it to innocent citizens who have worked hard for their money, and they fall victims. These are the things we are trying to sensitize right from the top, because you cannot take, for instance, how can you sign a land that you know that that particular land is meant for it's not meant to be they're not meant to erect structures there, a canal, for crying out loud. But because of some greedy set of greedy fellows, they know that, oh, they can always get their way out of it, because most people are not aware. Some people who are even aware, because they cannot beat them, they rather join them. It's not supposed to be so. So we need to make sure that we sensitize that particular sector, because if we don't do something about it, the cost, just take out the cost of living, especially when it comes to rent, buying of houses, it's becoming very abnormal. I mean, Nigeria is barely 66.
If I may comment, that's where I was coming to. A lot of people have been complaining that Lagos is overpriced, that realtors and all that, they are always adding prices or increasing prices of lands in Lagos. In fact, these days you hear land going for $1 million, $2 million, and you are wondering. So I'd like to hear your reaction.
Very much. Now, in all honesty, this is not just the realtors making. You have a land that, for instance, I want to use let me use Lagos Island as an example. Let me use Lekki Access. You buy a land for a certain amount, because your neighboring axis, for instance, Ikoyi is selling for maybe 1 million per square meter. You think that, okay, since we are close, we want to also increase our own amount. The question is, what is driving those prices? They say Lagos is compared to that of New York. Now Lagos is the New York of Lagos is like New York, and I ask myself, don't you see there are factors there that influences such prices? We see there's a whole lot that needs to be done in the industry. Number one, the regulatory body in charge of this set of what do you call them, land land pricing, land evaluation, needs to step up. This is becoming periodically abnormal. You cannot tell me that because, yes, you're in Ikoyi and it's they call it 1% of the 1%. The land there appreciates normally, and they call it appreciation value. On what are the basis of valuing the land there? They say these waterfront. Check out the waters. Are they even clean? You big mosquitoes here in Lagos, and you are still talking about. I mean, I don't want to just go much into this, but if you want me to tell you things that are the main core of valuing properties, number one, you have to look at development. Look at basic amenities, non-flooding environments, good road networks, security. These are basic functions, basic parameters that determines the prices of land. Not just because of this place is because it's known as a colonial environment where the white stayed. You now use some level of what do you call them, ethnicism, or should I use the word low self-esteem and price your and make the place go up. It doesn't add up. We are Nigerians. USA has been in existence, have had independence for over 200 years. We are just how many years now? And before you know, in the next 10 years now, even the common man won't be able to afford a good housing system.
Very much, Engineer Prosper. Thank you very much, Engineer Prosper, if you can hear me. Thank you so much. Now, I want to take you to another aspect where we were able to, draw a nexus between the responsibilities of the state and of those who have lands in the state. In Nigeria, land is a symbol of wealth. If you have a land in places like Lagos, in Kano, in Port Harcourt, in the Federal Capital Territory, Abuja, in those specific places, and in specific places in these areas, then you have some form of wealth. And the same thing is we have in Ghana, in Rwanda, in Kenya, and all of that. But the thing is, land acquisition most of the time goes in the direction of undocumented processes. In Ghana, the government has established a digital system to streamline the ownership when it comes to proper documentation of land registry. In Rwanda, the government is doing the same through the Land Reform Act. Well, when you look at Nigeria, you bring your attention to Lagos State. In 2015, the Lagos State government made it its priority to document land ownership in the country, in the state rather, and to register land, to be able to have those who have land and properties in the state. But nevertheless, we still have cases, some of the ones that you just referenced, where about 3 people go and purchase one specific land, and at the end of the day, they meet in court. And the boys and those who sold the land to them are smiling to the bank. Is it because this information is not available to those who are nursing the ambition to own a land, either in places like Lagos or in Accra, Ghana, where they go through the right procedure to the Ministry of Lands and Property Development in the state, for them to have proper information on who owns what land and which one is available for sale, or they just fall into the hands of thieves?
Okay, thank you very much. Now, like I said, first of all, it's unfortunate that we have a system that it's not like it's not functioning, but it is porous. Now, this is a job of a seasoned realtor alongside with a seasoned real estate lawyer, where you carry your job, judiciously, and go and screen the whole detail of the land history. Because when you're buying the land, you need to understand the history of the land. You need to know who was the original owner. Is this still the original owner that is still owning the land? Was it sold out? This information normally should be captured. I'm using Lagos as an example. Now, there's a place in Lagos called the Alausa. That particular area, you have records. You have records of landowners where you can go and verify who is the legitimate owner, what is the history on the land. If you want to go and chart the actual size of the land, because what you can see, what you can have, you're seeing physically might not be the actual size when they capture it on the survey plan.
Welcome back to Just Africa. The snail business is growing into a very lucrative business. You can find out more on Cashcraft as we look into the snail business. We'll be right back.
In the quiet corners of Nigeria's rainforest and backyard gardens, a silent economy is crawling its way into the future, one shell at a time. It doesn't make noise, but it makes money. Welcome to the world of snail farming, a slow but sure cash craft with big returns. This is Cashcraft, and I remain Grace Komalafe. Snails, especially the Achatina species, are rich in protein, iron, calcium, and have growing demand in Europe, America, and across West Africa. Yet, Nigeria, despite its climate advantage, still imports processed snail products to meet market demands. Are you kidding? We sure don't have to import everything, right? Do you agree? So that works if you and I chooses to take the bull by its horn. The government's forced policy approval is one step in the right direction. Are you aware that with a startup of 100,000 naira, a farmer can begin with 100 snails and scale within 69 months? The export market is wide open. Beyond the meat, snail slime, yes, that growing trail, is in high demand in cosmetic industry. A liter sells between 30,000 naira to 70,000 naira, with buyers ranging from skincare brands to pharmaceutical labs. And here is the beauty. Snails are low maintenance. They feed on kitchen waste, require minimal space, and reproduce rapidly in the right conditions. With proper care, one snail can lay up to 400 eggs in a year. Local sales in Lagos, Ibadan, and Port Harcourt already show promising profits. A matured snail sells between 500 naira to 1,500 naira, depending on size and species. But the real gold mine is export. Dried and frozen snail meats fetches higher prices in Europe, especially among Afro-Caribbean stores. As Nigeria's youth search for dignified income streams, snail farming offers an eco-friendly, capable, and sustainable path to wealth. Quiet but consistent, slow but rewarding. It's not just livestock, it's low-risk capital in a shell. Starting a snail business, whether rearing or selling, can be a profitable and low-risk venture, especially in regions like ours, Africa, where there is growing demand. Now, here are essential tips to guide you. 1. Decide your business model. You want to rear? Snail rearing means raising snails from hatchlings to maturity or sale. It could be meat or breeding. Now we'll go to 2 in that model, which is snail trading, by buying snails from farmers and reselling at retail or wholesale levels. And the 3rd in the model is value addition, by processing snails, which means you clean up, you package, or you frozen it, making snail oil or slime. 4 cosmetics. All of that are put together. Just decide which one you want to go for. 2, choose the right species for rearing. Choose fast-growing, highly reproductive, and climate-tolerant species like Achatina, the giant Ghana snail, Achatina fulica, Achatina marginata, commonly preferred in Nigeria. We move to 3. Understand the market. Visit local markets to assess demand and pricing. Identify your target, like restaurants, individuals, exporters, or cosmetic companies. We quickly move to 4. Get proper training. Learn the basics of snail biology, like feeding, housing, and health management. Attend short courses, join snail farming cooperatives, or follow credible online platforms. 5. Prepare a suitable environment for rearing, like housing. Use pens, boxes, trenches, or free-range setups. Ensure they are escape-proof. Okay? Now, soil. Moist, loamy soil is ideal. Shade and humidity. Protect snails from direct sunlight and maintain a humid environment. Cleanliness. Prevent fungi, ants, and pests with regular checks. Step 6. Feeding. Snails eat vegetables, fruits, leaves, and kitchen waste like pawpaw, watermelon, cocoyam, lettuce, and all of that. Provide calcium-rich foods like crushed eggshells or strong shell growth. Now we quickly move to 7, which is sourcing capital and stock. Start small and scale gradually. Buy healthy matured breeders from reputable farms. And now, number 8, keep records. Track feeding, mortality, breathing, and sales to understand performance and profitability. 9. Register your business. Yes, it is important that you register your business with relevant authorities if going commercial. Explore cooperatives or government agricultural support programs. That's a very key one for your business validation and all. Again, do not forget that this is a wake-up call, not a professional advice. Seeing an expert will go a long way. And the number 10, which is the last, is marketing. Use word of mouth, social media, and local markets. Offer home delivery or bulk discounts. Educate consumers on snail health benefits. Yes, it has high protein and low fat. Stop thinking, just act now. The future of farming isn't just fast, it's smart. And in the snail business, slow and steady wins the cash. I am Grace Komalafe. See you again.
Welcome back to Just Africa, and Krumale and I are still here discussing about land ownership, and we still have our guest, and by the person of Engineer Prosper Nwizu. He's still joining us this morning.
So, Engineer Prosper, I want to ask you this question. First of all, apologize for the brief where we lost you for a moment. Welcome back once again. Now, in Nigeria and in Lagos, Nigeria, there's congestion. But a lot of people are still moving into Lagos, and they are going into places to go and acquire houses. So because of the massive population that Lagos kept receiving each and every time, the prices of commodities have skyrocketed. And the price of rent in itself is something else. Yesterday, I was on the platform where they were talking about getting an apartment, a 2-bedroom apartment for 3.2 million naira somewhere in Shomolu. And the person was angry that why is it not in Lekki? The case is the same in Nairobi. The case is the same somewhere in Kenya, in Cairo, in Egypt. And it looks as if even investors in the real estate sector does not want to go into investment where they provide accommodation for the people at the ebb of society. Whenever they invest, they give to the people at the top of society. Therefore, the rent is always on the high side. What kind of housing or land acquisition do you think the average man in Africa can have access to that would be enough for him?
Okay, thank you very much. So land in general, I mean, by 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 nature and by audio, we know there are locations that are more developed than the others. You hear the rural areas, the urban areas. This also have its ripple effects with land acquisition when you're trying to get a land. Um, it's just like every other thing. You just have to get um, you have to look at what is feasible for you. But the truth is, like cities like Lagos has in Nigeria, Lagos, Nigeria now, there are certain areas in Lagos you can still be able to afford a sense of land, at least that is quite decent, but might not be your choice area. And now that's where the whole situation comes on board, where you have to start, you hear things like you need to, if you want to stay in certain areas, you have to, in our local parliament, double your hustle. But I honestly feel like whatever that is also adding to this high rise of land prices has to do with number one, the whole economic imbalances at the moment, because take a look at what is happening in Africa. Africa is already experiencing new shifts. We are trying to take back, Africa, give it that ideal, um, the ideal kind of way it should have. We are seeing that some people are now like investors. They come in, they come to a certain terrain. Yes, they do well by trying to make the environment look good, but it also has its own disadvantages in the sense that sometimes a place that is not meant to go for a certain amount because of the first pricing situation put in that area, a lot of things go abnormal. And one thing about, if I'm still going to use Nigeria as an example in Africa, because Nigeria is a leading market in terms of Africa as a whole. We know how Nigeria itself determines other African country markets because of our great agricultural produce, and also we have large sum of manpower in terms of population, and this also have a way of also you know affecting other African countries. We now, normally there was a time when Nigerian currency was actually superior to so many African countries. And when we get to some African countries like that, we use our currency and destabilize their own, what's it called, their own economy. Not that we do that on purpose, but it's just the same thing that happens. If for instance, a foreigner from the Western world comes into Nigeria as well, because their currency is quite higher than ours, they come in here, they destabilize our market, and other property owners, land owners will like see it in a way that, wow, so my property can actually go for this value. And they upscale their value again, the pricing value. It's not like because there is any decent metric to ascertain the price, they just use that opportunity and they just put it up. Imagine, for no reason, why would a property in, citing Lagos as example, why would a property be going for as high as $6 million? And when you're checking the property does not exude the so-called luxury, as we call it. That also has a way of affecting other areas when it comes to land purchase, because they say that if the land can go here for a certain amount, and it's a matter of time, this place too will also appreciate. Yes, we know that yes, land is a good commodity, but I keep maintaining the metric at which it is appreciated, it is not normal. I'm a real estate practitioner, and I can tell you for a fact that what's it called? Real estate in Lagos, Nigeria, per se, it is it is overhyped. It is overhyped. We are see, I'm using myself for an instance. I pay rent where I am. Do you understand? And when I see other, and I imagine that I have clients who want to go rent out properties. And when I see some certain areas, the rent fee that is being demanded, I ask myself, what is the metric? What is the metric of this place, this particular property getting this amount of rent? Do you understand? And there is nothing there is no reasonable parameters used to justify it. The only thing I'll say is, for instance, this is Lekki now, this is Victoria Island. No, there are factors. There are factors. Go to well-developed country, you will see that there are factors that they use to determine their rent. I mean, you want people to pay certain rent. Okay, recently Lagos State government was saying something about they are going to make monthly rent. It, in a sense, it sounded like a good idea. But if you come to look at it in our present Nigerian reality, we know that is already a debt trap. How many people earn much to pay a certain rent fee? It's so if you look at it in the real sense, it's even far better to just pay annual rent of 1 year. You will know that you have settled 1 year and you start thinking, because there is no good, the job itself cannot sustain that monthly rent. The Nigerians, what's it called, the income, the basic income for that has been approved is, I think, 70,000 naira, right? How many properties in Nigeria can 70,000 afford on a monthly basis? And mind you, that is someone's net salary, meaning he has to do some levels of deduction to be able to at least see and move for the next day ahead. So when you look at these things, they are not just, do you understand? It's not adding up. So we have a lot to do in this our real estate. I know there are a lot of people want to really make ends meet, but you also need to put yourself in other people's shoe. And that is why we are having high rate of crime in the society. How
All
many?
right, Engineer Prosper, thank you very much. In rounding up, to a layman, take us through if one were to acquire land in, let's say, Lagos, and not fall into the omonile, the land grabbers, and sometimes you acquire a land, and these realtors, these real estate agents, they know that this particular area is not going to develop in 10 years, but they go ahead and with the videos and all that. So take us through, how can you even ensure that the land you are buying is not sold to you by someone who doesn't even, who has no, who is not related to the owners, who has no information about that particular place? We have real estate agents selling land to like 10 people and absconding. How can one navigate through all this?
So I couldn't hear you for a while because your I think from the side of your network is a bit glitching. So I don't know.
All right, I'm just saying, take us through acquiring land in Lagos, for instance, legally. How can you acquire land? How can you go and check whether this land is not pre-owned or is not owned by someone? What are the steps to take? The network is a bit, I would have loved,
Okay.
all right, I would have loved him to, because you hear these days, I think it's the Nigerians and the diaspora that fall into this category of people who are being sold a dream. I call it a dream, whereby they are over there, they are just communicating with the realtors, and the realtors tell them, okay, we have Engineer Prosper back. Engineer Prosper, welcome back.
Oh, thank you very much. So for me to start this, it is a very interesting question. Now, um, we have a whole lot of quack agents. You know, they are not. I don't. It's not even about. Yes, they are not even registered. They don't know. They don't have a brief, concise history of a certain land, and because of this body is not being regulated, it feels like any Dick and Harry can come in and just tell you something. Oh, my brother does this agent work, so you tell your brother to sell, whereas your brother has not asked you questions concerning the land, and you go propagate it to other people who also parade themselves as agents, and at the end of the day, no substantial information is given. Even the buyer who is coming to buy at some point, because he's not using credible realtors to see him or her through that process. Because there's some certain informations that we just need, and we can just tell you that please avoid this land, avoid this property. You don't want to go into start having court issues because of a simple process that you could have just carried and avoided yourself of such problems. I had for instance, a developer. He is my client, and he wanted to go into a joint venture, venture partnership with the landowner. And as soon as we saw we were doing our own due diligence, and we took our lawyer to go check up the land. We found out that the title of the land has issues. And the best advice we could give our developer is, first of all, I will advise you to avoid it. But if you still want to go ahead with it because you love the place and all, I will advise you carry out certain measures so that at least you can justify yourself that you have gone ahead according to the law to fulfill the whole process. Because whether you like it or not, these things will still arise. And if you don't have it on ground, it's already a flaw for mayhem, and you cannot even help it when it starts. You've seen cases that are dragging for 12 years, 13 years, 15 years. I mean, these are troubles you could save yourself from. So, first of all, I will appeal to all our Nigerian brothers and sisters who are in the diaspora, who are intending to get, you know, have to purchase real estate properties. You know, please get the service of a verified real estate agent, and thereby, also have a lawyer as well with in accordance with the real estate agent, so that they can work hand in hand to ensure that you don't fall prey. Because this particular situation, you will not understand it critically until you get yourself involved, and it's usually messy. A whole lot of things can be avoided. So I appeal to both those even right here in the country, Nigeria as well. Most of them still fall prey because they just feel like, don't worry. I don't want to. I wanted to cite an example now, and I'm trying to respect the person, because the person is already a deceased. The person is deceased. That was something that happened sometimes. I think, I mean, I don't want to, just for certain reasons, I wouldn't want to say things that would, um, you know, begin to bring a whole lot of buzz online. But what I would have told you now is a very classical example of someone trying to boycott the process and thinking he can, go ahead and see through, which led to his own death. I mean, the person is a very prominent person in the country, or was a prominent person, because this person is late.
All right, thank you very much, Engineer Prosper Nwizu. It's so great. We really enjoyed your line of thoughts. It's so great to have you.
It's always a pleasure here. It's always a pleasure. And I'm always glad to be at service, because we need to sensitize our country. And it starts with people like you and people like me to, properly educate people on this, because the country needs to be taken back. And we cannot do that without proper education. If people are not properly educated, people will continue to fall prey, and and the country will continue to keep sinking. Nigeria must work again. And I am a strong believer that this country can work, because we have everything here to make it work. Human resources, is it the natural resources? We have everything.
Thank you. I like the positivity. Thank you very much for your thoughts.
Have a blessed Monday.
You too. All right, that was quite, and I like his positivity. I like how he's optimistic he is about Nigeria.
He's the good Nigerian.
He's the good Nigerian.
The good Nigerian that we'll be looking at. Well, okay, in wrapping up, I would like to know, referenced what happened, if I'm not mistaken, about 15 years ago. I took the boldness to go ask for rent somewhere in VI Osborne.
Banana Island.
VI Osborne Road.
Osborne.
Yes. And
wow.
If I'm not mistaken, probably maybe like 3-bedroom flat or 2-bedroom flat 15 years ago. So I was told to bring 6.5 million naira. And I told them
16 years, how many years ago?
6.5 million, about 15 years ago.
Of course.
So I told them I was coming back until today. I've not, today, probably the price would have been 4 or 5 times
definitely
that amount I was told. So I could think along with what they saying about, getting an apartment in some areas. But these places I went to, you can say they worth that.
All right, this is where we'll draw the curtains on Just Africa this morning. A big thank you to everyone who made it possible, and thank you. The bigger thanks to you for staying with us. Rounding up, we would like to have the uniqueness of Africa, and we'll be doing palm oil. Until next time, I am Olumide Sokoya.
And I'm Oyinpreye Krumale.